students, and welcome to the first of two videos on battles at the start of World War II, both the European and Asian front. And as you can see from the map today, we are going to start with the European battles, focusing mainly 1938 to 1941 and what was going on in Europe. So the first place we start with is the fall of France. Now, if we look at this map, in 1940, Germany will control the countries of Denmark, they will control Norway, they will control Belgium, they will control the Netherlands and Luxembourg. Now, one of the things that happens is you have to remember France built a thing called the Maginot Line, and the Maginot Line was between Germany and France, that border. But what happened is the Germans go through Belgium, the same way that they did in World War I. The French didn't believe they would go through the Ardennes forest in Belgium. They did. This is a common mistake that France makes. March 1940, Germany is controlling a large swath of Western Europe. Battle of Dunkirk. This actually, even though it is a loss for the British Army, is going to actually be a success. When the German army sweeps through Belgium, the British Army goes up to the coast of Dunkirk, which is, I don't see it on the map, which is a strategic point. They reach this, they go up to Dunkirk. The German army is sweeping through Belgium. The British army is trapped, because if you notice, once I get to the coast, I just have this waterway. And if I see Dunkirk, it's right on the coast. So what they are doing, the German army, is pushing the British to the coast. The Great Britain, if you look at Dunkirk, sends as everything that can float. They make out a call. Anything. You're looking at boats, you're looking at private yachts, you're looking at British naval ships. They are going and they are sending as many ships as they can to save the army. Between May 26th and June 4th, Great Britain saves the army by having this massive retreat. That means they leave all their stuff, but the important thing is they can replace the stuff. They cannot replace those soldiers. And because of the evacuation of Dunkirk and being able to get out, the British are able to save their army. But France will fall. By June 1914, Germany will take Paris, which is going to leave France surrendering. France will be divided into the German zone of occupation and the free zone. Notice the provinces of Alsace-Lorraine, which was the contention in World War I, go back to France, this German occupied zone, and then this free zone. Well, technically it is free. It is not really a free zone. The France, that southern France, that free zone is known as Vichy France, and it is placed under a puppet government. I would make an annotation about puppet government. Puppet government is when Hitler put the person in charge of Vichy France is Pétain. He is appointing that government in France, and they will literally become just another German territory. It's almost like a colony, and he will be required to do. So after the fall of France, you can see Great Britain is your strong holdout against Germany. Churchill is now the prime minister. Hitler expects the British to surrender. Churchill makes this famous speech: "We will meet them on the land, we will meet them on the air, we will meet them on the sea, we will never surrender," especially after Dunkirk. So, if you notice, the only way you can get to Britain is through a naval. You need to move your troops through Navy over to Britain, but in order to safely get to Britain, you have to control the airspace. So, Hitler needs to destroy the Royal Air Force before he can go and invade Britain. So, from the summer of 1940, they begin to bomb only military targets. They're hitting especially your RAF, Air Force bases, and that is usually daylight bombing. However, to relieve the bombing, one of the things that happens is Churchill sends over a bombing raid, which hits some German cities. In response, Hitler is so angry that he moves the day bombing into night bombing. And in September 1940, he begins the bombing of British cities. He is bombing constantly every night. So 1940, Britain is being bombed on a regular basis. By October, he has increased the night bombing. But the thing is, Britain held out. Britain does not surrender. These bombings of these cities actually unite the British even stronger in their resolve. The British had two advantages to defeating Hitler in the Battle of Britain. They had the ability of radar, which means they're able to see where these ships come. And then you had the best kept secret of World War II, which is the Enigma, where every order, they knew where every plane was going. They knew where every subway was going once they broke the German secret code. Now, at the time of the Battle of Britain, FDR does not want the U.S. to be isolationist anymore. However, the population of the U.S. is still isolationist. Remember, we talked about last video the Neutrality Acts and staying out of this war. But FDR knows Hitler is a threat. Britain can't hold out because they're broke. They need the U.S. to help them. They can't buy U.S. goods. They don't have any money to buy anything. So in March 1941, FDR signs and gets Congress to pass the Lend-Lease. While it does not actively, officially get us into the war, it is at this point that we are literally supplying any nation fighting Hitler. So when Stalin and the Soviet Union get invaded, they will become part of the Lend-Lease Act. Hitler will, as a result of this, order U.S. ships to be sank, and FDR will order the U.S. to sink German ships, especially interfering with the blockade. Interesting thing is, this sounds like an act of war, but FDR is not strong enough to declare war, but he's basically supplying the Russia, and once Russia enters, but the big one is he is supplying Great Britain. In the Atlantic Charter, what happens after the Lend-Lease is signed, FDR and Churchill meet. FDR is not going to make the same mistakes that Wilson made. He is going to, what is the post-war world going to look like? He is planning with his ally instead of waiting till the end of the war. And they come up with the Atlantic Charter, which if you look, some of the things from the 14 points come into play. All right? There will be no territorial gains. So there is not going to, the Middle East is not going to be divided. We are not going to continue imperialism. People choosing their own government. In the areas that are liberated, especially Western Europe, by Britain and the U.S., their armies will leave. In the eastern areas of Europe, you will not get this self-determination because the Red Army will not leave. And this is going to be the roots of the Cold War. You're going to increase free trade, and you're going to disarm, notice your aggressive nations, especially German. While this is going on, you have the invasion of the Soviet Union, which we saw in the video. It is a surprise attack, even though Britain had warned Stalin. Stalin did not believe it. The Soviets adopt that scorched earth tactic that they used with Napoleon, where they retreat further and further in, getting you further and further away from your supply line, so that Hitler's army has nothing to live on. One of the first cities brutally attacked is the Siege of Leningrad, which we saw in the video in class, which is going to suffer from a 900-day siege and lose half the population. Moscow is the capital of Russia at the time, and Hitler and Stalin, they will not let the city surrender, but it is never taken or under siege. And our last, and that is it for this video, and please stay tuned and look at the next video, which we will deal with the Asian War.